And now we're recording it, so that's even better. So all those board members who are in favor of Charles C. being our interim secretary for taking minutes, please vote by using your, I can't, you're raising your hand.
No, the green check box in the reactions thing.
Okay. None of which I can do. So I'm green boxing.
Okay. I've got 6 green boxes. Oh, okay, it's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2, approve the consent calendar, and I'll bring the consent calendar up. I don't know if the rest of you have worked with consent calendars, but theoretically they are there so that if there are non-controversial issues that it's assumed we will agree to, motions are placed there and someone will move to approve the consent calendar, or if there's something that's in the consent calendar they feel requires discussion before approval, they can ask to remove it from the consent calendar. And anything that remains in the consent calendar that hasn't been removed, we then vote en masse to approve what's there. And as of tonight, the only thing in the consent calendar is to approve our minutes. Now, I realize we've got a bit of a problem in that 4 of you probably have not been able to attend those meetings and therefore approve the minutes. So what I suspect you may want to do is abstain from voting. And then the majority of us who vote in the affirmative or the negative will determine whether it passes or not. So does anyone wish to remove something from the consent calendar? Starting, Charlesy?
I'm not sure if it requires removal. There are 2 sets of minutes with minor typos in them, and I just want to call that to someone's attention.
Okay,
So,
would you like to remove them for now and we'll pick them up later?
hate to do this.
Wait, can I intervene here?
Please.
It's so there's a proposal, or this is what I do with the minutes, is there's in the Google Doc, you have the option of highlighting your name at the top of the list in terms of attendance and make a comment, read and approved. So at that point, and if there's small changes like typos, you can approve them and still make those suggested edits unless it changes the meaning of the content. Does that make sense?
So you're suggesting I go and add the edit and mark approve, or because they are small. They are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jackie?
Yeah, Jackie, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, maybe can you clarify what it means to approve these minutes? So what it is that we're looking at these meeting minutes for our new board members, when we read through them and we approve them, what is it that we're actually looking for? That we agree that that's what happened? Or can you summarize that?
That's my understanding what the minutes are for. They are a record of who attended our meetings, what the deliberations were, and mostly what our decisions are. So, but it's also my perception that once they're approved, they're approved. So I guess I differ a little bit from you, Claire. Some of these have sat there for 2 or 3 months, and if they sit there for another month, I don't think that's a major problem, as long as we get them out of the way someday.
Well,
So
I don't know.
I would prefer that Charles C. pull the one she wants to edit.
And then do what with them, John?
Bring them back and we'll approve them at the next meeting, after everyone's had a chance to actually read them and make their recommended changes.
But do I edit them in the meantime?
Yes, you go into the
Okay.
Google Doc and suggest your
edit.
edits.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, the 2 dates, okay, and then I guess I am pulling them. I'm sorry
So-
to do that. I feel,
Claire, unless you want to discuss this further.
Misty has her hand up.
Misty?
I'm just curious what the edits are. If they're just spelling, I don't see why we have to pull them.
Right.
And yeah, also some of us have been going to meetings regularly, so do I have to abstain?
Not
From-
necessarily.
I'll make
Okay.
it a
I was just suggesting that as an option.
Okay, that was my question. But I moved-
This
I
is
moved
how
it.
the consent calendar isn't supposed to work, but here we are.
John, that's why I said we needed more time for the consent calendar this time, and also why I was supposed to be facilitating this section.
Did I take over? I'm sorry.
You do.
Please facilitate. I'll shut up.
No, I'm gonna just, you're on a roll. Go for it.
Okay. Chelsea, it's up to you. If you want to make edits, I suggest you pull them now.
I do want to make the edits. I'm trying to understand the procedure. So, and I'm hearing two different theories on that. So I can make the edits and we can leave them as is. One is that the date at the top is incomplete. The other is that somebody's name is misspelled in the body of the paper. I'm happy to go in and edit them and leave them in this group, and I will vote in the affirmative to pass them out or pass them.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying that because we have pushed these minutes for the last 3 or 4 meetings onto the consent count, off of the consent calendar, and then we don't have time to deal with them. And I think that practice has been really abused.
I agree. I think it's to some degree, and I'm as guilty as everyone else, it's the failure of the board members to go in and edit the minutes prior to now, so that we do have a set of minutes that we know people have had a chance to look at.
And I've never understood that to be the process, and I apologize that I did not know that's what we were meant to be doing.
Well, it's something we need to reach an agreement amongst ourselves as well, because we do have a very new board. I'm willing to suspend my concern and go ahead and approve them and allow, I guess, a reintroduction with edits the next time around in the consent calendar. That seems to be the best compromise, is you can move reconsideration of those minutes next month with those edits, but let's get them behind us now.
Stefan?
Yes, I'm wondering why the board is approving general meeting minutes. I think the board approves board meeting minutes, the general meeting approves general meeting minutes. So I guess I would say let's pull the general meeting minutes from the consent decree, and it should be the organization as a whole that approves the general meeting minutes. The board.
If
I
I
think
may,
the
I
fact-
understand the logic of that, Stefan, but we can't get 9 people to read the minutes now. Do you think we can get 150?
Well, I just don't think it's proper for the board to be approving minutes of the general meeting. I'm
Okay.
not trying to be difficult here, but it's up to the general meeting to approve the minutes of the general meeting. I think that's the way Robert's rules goes. Is Dan here? Maybe we can get a ruling from him.
I believe you're right.
What? I didn't hear that.
I believe you're right, Stefan.
Okay.
Well, I believe our charter is moot about this. So what are we going to pull out of our minutes for later consideration? Anything? Or do we vote to approve them as they sit?
Steph, oh, you have your hand up still. Okay.
May I make a recommendation that the people that are willing to vote, that wasn't attending, go ahead and, enter into.
You're muted, Susan. Again, you're muted.
I don't know what's happening. My screen is muting itself. I don't know where I got muted. I'm just trying to get us moving forward a little bit. If we could go ahead and agree to review go ahead and accept the board meeting minutes and we can have a discussion on the general meeting later. That way we're following the right rules. But I just hate to see 17 minutes of a 1 hour meeting spent on this.
Yes, thank you. I second the motion. John, you're muted.
You're moving to approve the consent calendar, which
She's moving
includes the
to,
minutes.
what else is in the consent calendar, John?
There's nothing else to approve in the consent calendar other than those minutes.
Okay,
Is there a second to approving the consent calendar as submitted?
No,
No.
I pulled the general meeting minutes.
Well, okay, then now I understand what you're saying, Stefan. I heard a suggestion. You're now pulling.
Yes.
Okay. So I will strike those from the listing. Well, obviously I've got a problem here because I have 2 dates for the general meeting. My bad.
so I want to move that we approve the board minutes to date.
Okay, or those that remain not pulled from the calendar, which are the board meetings, yes.
I'll second.
So we're still approving the consent calendar as
Okay,
amended, and Jackie seconds it.
okay.
All those in favor, please raise your hands.
It's really hard to count physical hands, and the computer counts electronic ones, so I apologize, folks. We
Well, I
gotta,
have to raise my hand because I can't do it
I've got,
otherwise,
yeah, we know you're an exception, John.
as always.
Okay,
So abstentions? Well, first no's. How many vote no?
No,
Okay, please
wait.
lower your hands, and those of you who abstain, please raise your hand. Chelsea, we have 3 ways of voting. You vote for, you vote against, and you abstain.
Yeah, it's green and red, right?
Actually, I
Right.
think we're raising our hands.
Okay.
I thought we weren't raising our hands.
electronic. Okay, this is the way that votes should go. They should be the red button and the green button and the yellow hand if you're abstaining. Okay, or the
Okay.
coffee
Okay.
cup if you're, so. Sorry that that's unclear.
So yellow hand is abstaining, green is yes, X is no. Okay.
Right,
And this is voting to pass, right?
pass the board minutes.
The consent calendar, which consists of board minutes, yes.
Okay, we have 5 for, 2 abstentions. So where is that's 7, we still have two votes to come in.
I'm for.
Oh, okay, so 6 for, 2 abstentions,
I'm also for. I don't have any.
Okay.
other-
6, 7 for, okay.
Okay, I will mention that I added to the consent calendar, it's not a vote, that we do have a treasurer's report now. We have $1,220.37 in our account with Northwest Community Credit Union. Just got that half an hour before our meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so where are we in the agenda?
We're getting dizzy.
Board officer elections. In the information for this item, I shared with you what the charter says we're supposed to do, which is we are supposedly required by the charter to elect a co-chairs, a secretary, treasurer at tonight's meeting. But I think we can vote to suspend those rules if you want to wait till a later date till we better know each other.
Stefan, you have your hand up?
I do. I move that we follow the charter and elect officers at this meeting.
Okay. And
Is there a
discussion?
second? I will second for the purpose of discussion for Stefan. So this is mine, right? So discussion. Anybody want to speak to whether we should elect officers tonight or not? My understanding Robert's rules is bylaws, which is essentially what our charter is, can be suspended by a 2/3 vote of the board.
That I know to be true.
Susan, your hands up.
Yeah, I just really don't feel comfortable voting at this time. I've had a whopping 45-minute conversation with the folks that we just finished. And, you know, in that, I didn't hear a lot about what the roles have been, how people have done in their roles, and or discussion about, are these the right roles? I just don't know enough yet to feel comfortable voting. And that's what I really had hoped that our retreat would enable us to get together and have the new members of the board get to understand a little bit more about the responsibilities as well as the individuals on the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan?
The roles are set forward in the charter. Unless we amend the charter, we know what the roles are: co-chairs and secretary treasurer. You know, if people don't want to do it, I'm not going to have heartburn over it, but I'm not sure that these roles are going to be contested. I suspect that we're going to be more likely to have difficult finding people to volunteer for them. So, you know, I don't know that it's something that I need a whole lot more knowledge about who people are. If people are willing to fulfill the roles, let's fulfill the roles and get on with business. But if people want to vote the motion down, that's fine, and I'm okay with it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm curious if we've had anybody express interest in any of these roles. Like Stefan said, I also would think that it would be a bit of a challenge to fill these roles, so it might not be a hot race. I don't know if that would help the conversation if we knew if people were even interested in these roles or were willing to step up in the roles, I guess. I personally
Chelsea?
don't have a problem electing tonight, but I definitely would understand waiting as well.
Chelsea?
Yeah, I am uncomfortable having a vote if there are especially new members who are not familiar enough with the roles yet, and they've just had them in their hands for the first time in the last 24 hours. And we haven't done a poll to find out if there's interest in these positions that I know of anyway. So I'm a little concerned about rushing that process tonight. On the other hand, we don't know when our retreat's going to be, so we don't know how long we're going to have to wait if we're hoping to have that kind of discussion there.
Misty?
Yeah, I hope that we can discuss this and learn more about the roles and the individuals that have held the roles for several years now, and hear from them about their experiences as chair or secretary or so on and so forth. And yeah, what the roles entail, and so folks know what to expect. And also, how are we gonna, no, I just don't see how we can vote without knowing more information. Make a wise vote anyway.
Does anybody want to make a motion on this?
We have a motion on the floor, which we have to deal with.
What is it?
The motion is we elect tonight.
Oh, okay. So are we ready to vote, John?
We have two hands up, Claire.
Oh, okay, continue.
Dwight, Dan, you were ahead of me.
No, go ahead. I think everything's been said. That I mean, I'm just adding layers.
Well, okay. What I wanted to say, first of all, we do have a report we have to make to the state by May, which requires us expending $20, and we have to have someone serving as a treasurer. However, both Claire and I have the ability to get a check. So that's not a problem. It's just that it'd be nice if the treasurer took care of it. The secretary duty, we have Chelsea handling it, at least for now. And we could have the co-chairs continue to serve in that role if people are comfortable until we have that election. But Stefan's motion is to elect. If it fails, then we need to make another motion basically agreeing when we're going to have this election. So if Stefan's motion fails, we will need another motion. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. Are we ready to vote on this? And it requires a 2/3 majority to defeat it, because it's basically going against the rules of the charter. Does that make sense to you, Dan, as our parliamentarian?
That's my understanding as well, and I'm feverishly looking for a citation in case you want one, but I believe that's right.
Okay, if everyone's comfortable with that, let's vote. All those in favor of Stefan's motion to elect tonight, use your green button. Those who are opposed, use your red button. And if you would abstaining, hold your hand up, and I will hold my thumb up in favor. I see 1 yes and 8 no's.
Carly, do you have a reactions button at the bottom of your page?
Oh, I still don't see Carly. Yeah.
She says she can't vote, so she's opposing.
Is that correct, Carly?
That is correct. My reaction's not working. I think I need to update Zoom, so.
Okay. So Stefan, I'm sorry, your motion fails with a sufficient majority to suspend the rules. But I think we need another motion after. I'd like some discussion first before someone makes a motion of when do you want to hold this election, so we can put that in the motion. Does
Susan
anyone
has her
have a
hand up.
suggestion? Susan?
Well, I was going to propose that we have a meeting of the board between, whether it's the retreat or whether it's a secondary meeting that we have, that we can be explained what the roles are and potentially get a better understanding as to, the time commitments, et cetera. Have that conversation and meeting between now and the next official board meeting, and then vote at the next board meeting.
Okay. Anyone else have any other suggestions? Otherwise, Susan, I'll ask you for a motion. Other thoughts? Jackie's hands up. Did you want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, I would elect to, this feels like a conversation for the board retreat. So I would prefer to delay it to the board retreat if that needs to be a motion. I probably wouldn't vote for an extra meeting on this topic specifically, but that would be my preference.
And since the retreat we intend to hold amongst ourselves, we can't deliberate as to who we will elect, but we certainly can talk about what the roles are.
Okay.
So other thoughts? Would someone like to make a motion?
Dan has his hand up.
Dan?
Yeah, going back to my earlier comment, and my general feeling is that out of the retreat should come what our vision is, and whomever is deciding to toss their hat in the ring for either of these positions, it'd be nice to hear how you intend to help that vision that we all agree upon, so that then we have an idea for how all of this is going to fit together. It's not just really about you as an individual, it's about you along with the administration and how you're going to work together, right? If everyone has a different vision, or more importantly, a different view on how we're going to get there, that doesn't seem like a very good pathway if we're all rowing in the wrong direction. But I will, yeah, that's what I want to say. Thanks.
So I interpret that to mean that you'd prefer to elect the members after the retreat, and hopefully that will inform that decision.
Yes.
Okay. So now would be a good time for a motion, folks.
I would like to make a motion that we have the vote at the next meeting and that we use the retreat to have discussions on the roles and responsibilities.
So you're proposing we elect officers before we discuss roles and responsibilities.
No, I said at the next board meeting, which would be the April board meeting, I propose that we have our vote then. And between now and then, my assumption is we are having the retreat. We haven't discussed dates, but I'm hoping it's going to be in the next several weeks. And
Okay.
that we can discuss at the retreat the roles and responsibilities.
So it seems to me that your suggestion is contingent upon when we set the retreat.
Right.
So I suggest we table this for now, and move to the discussion about the retreat and bring it back.
Yes.
Would someone like to move to table? Or how about this,
I have
without
a proposal.
objection? Okay, go ahead, Jackie.
I was going to
And
say,
then
what if
Stefan.
we modify that language that Susan just gave to say at the next board meeting after the retreat? So we currently
work.
don't know the date of the retreat, but at the following board meeting of whenever that occurs, we'd be able to make the elections at that point, just to get us something on the books.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, Susan?
Thanks.
I'll
Stefan?
second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the table that we elect our board officers at the next board meeting following our retreat. To have that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all those, any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor, please green dot, or in my case, raise your hand.
We've got a unanimous decision on that.
Okay, all right, we can move forward. Thank you. Okay, back up to here. Claire, this is yours. It's the board retreat.
Okay, well, in the past, we've had board retreats that have served to identify goals and vision for the coming year, and also help to orient new members. So is there anything else that people strongly want to have on the retreat agenda?
Sorry. Hi.
Speak up.
Oh, I second Daniel's statement about focusing on our vision and goals for the future. I would also like us to work on or look at a full spectrum, if you will, of the activities, committees, et cetera, ad hocs, whatever that we're currently working on, and try to get an idea as to the our capacity, who's doing the work on those things. And as we talk about our vision for future change, that we also look at person power and how those things are going to be accomplished and how we can track that on a meeting by meeting basis, so that we don't lose sight of all the things that we do and have to do to promote change and growth.
Okay, be sure you capture that in the minutes, Chelsea. Any other comments about content for the retreat? And this is not your last opportunity, but if there's something you've been sitting on that you really wanted to say, you have an opportunity, you can say it now or later.
Well, I would just
Done.
remind us, we can't deliberate towards a decision, but we certainly can
Right,
understand each other's perspectives
right,
and answer questions.
right. So Misty, your hand's up.
Yes, I would like to discuss also at the retreat. And I know this has been mentioned several times before, but just want to make sure it gets on the agenda that we come up with a protocol on how to handle future meetings if they are disrupted and or have a problem. Y'all know what I'm saying, right?
Conflict resolution and expectations of civic behavior.
Right, like, yeah, so we come to all in agreement of, yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Jackie, your hand's up.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm really excited for this board retreat. We didn't have one after Dan and I were elected last year. So we've kind of we just got thrown into things in March, and we never really got an instruction manual handed to us of how this process works. So I'm excited to get together and document that and lay some things out, so we can all have a clear picture of what our expectations are of being involved in this board. Yeah, going forward. So I'm excited for it. That's it.
Fantastic. So we need to have a couple people be on the planning committee. We need to identify a location. And we need to decide when, which might be contingent on location. Jackie?
Yeah, I'm wondering if anybody who's been involved in a board retreat that RRCO has had in the past could tell us a little bit maybe how that went, maybe where you gathered, how long it might have taken place. Is there any history of that you could share about that?
The last one we had in the sunroom at Jan's house, it was maybe a 3 or 4 hour, it was like a 4-hour meeting, a half day retreat. I think maybe we could have it at the penthouse of the Hyatt and have it catered, but tongue in cheek there. Alternately, we could go to Hawaii, but no, generally we do it in a a private space.
Okay, so it's a couple hours. It's not like a weekend getaway.
Right, like
Okay.
a half day. Yeah, John.
So what I hear is a proposal that we form an ad hoc committee to plan the retreat.
Yes.
I would so move. If someone wants to second it, we can make that happen.
Do we have any?
I second it.
Okay,
Okay.
that's all I'm saying for this point. The other thing is that I'm going to be gone for a period of time from April 15th through May 7th. So I do think it's important that we get that information to this committee so they can look for a date when we can meet. And the other question is, I assume we're going to do it via Zoom, but we should make that decision too.
Stefan, your hands up.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, rather than just defer this to a committee, I'd like to get a date set.
Yeah.
Because my calendar fills up and I also am going to be doing some traveling. So
Okay.
I'm in favor of having a committee plan it, but I would like to get the date set tonight.
Okay, so the most efficient way of getting a date set is to spend an hour talking about it and looking at our calendars. So maybe we can start by, I'm going to assume it's going to be on a Saturday or a Sunday. Is that a correct assumption? Anybody have a different assumption?
I would prefer to be on a Sunday because I work on Saturdays.
Okay, Susan, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to propose maybe everybody could put in the chat the dates that they're going to be out of town between now and the end of April. And then we can at least start to get an idea of overlaps, et cetera. If we could do that, then we can at least get something going in chat.
Thank you. Good suggestion.
No problem.
And I'd love to just propose Saturday, April 9th. Nope. Okay. Saturday, April 2nd.
Well, I think we heard from Misty that she's not available on Saturdays.
Oh, I'm sorry, Misty. How about the 3rd? That's our only opportunity before Stefan leaves.
Sunday, the 3rd. Stephanie, is your hand up or is that left over?
I can do the 3rd. I've put it in my window. If you can do the 3rd, why don't you go ahead and put the green or
Green checks for the 3rd.
Oh, sorry. I can do it, Chelsea.
Okay.
Get to my reactions.
Stefan, do you have your hand? Do you want to say something? You're on mute. You're on mute. Okay, Patrick, Daniel says 3rd is good for him. Looks like we have a date.
As
Except
long
for-
as we finish before 5 o'clock, it works for me.
Okay, Stefan, I still don't know what's going on with you. You've been on mute and you have a yellow hand up.
You're on mute, Stefan.
Or put it in the chat, Stefan, if you can't unmute yourself.
Derek, can you hear
There
me
you
now?
go. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, good. I can do the third. And I
All
don't-
right.
My hand would still be up.
Well done, everybody. So we're on for the third. Can it be from 1 to 5?
No, wait,
No? That's a Sunday.
I would just like to say, I'd like the ad hoc committee to have some leeway if possible.
Okay,
I'm a little nervous about saying it must end after 4 hours if we have an agenda
all right.
that requires a little bit more.
So
I don't-
we'll refer the timing to the ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
Is that what you're suggesting?
That would be my
Okay,
preference.
okay. Who wants to be on the ad hoc committee?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would like, I don't know that I want to do more than 4 hours. I think the agenda should be limited
Yeah.
to 4 hours.
Well, we can let the committee work through that with all of us, assuming we vote to form a committee,
Okay,
or we can
So-
do it without objection and just make it.
okay. Without objection, we're gonna form a committee. I will volunteer to be on the committee representing
too.
previous board.
I'll be on it.
Who is that?
This is Susan. I'll be on it with you, Claire.
Susan, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Claire, sorry.
Yeah, anybody else want to be on it?
I have a quick question about how we're going to, if the committee, I guess, are we granting the committee the power to create the entire agenda that wouldn't have to be approved by the rest of the board since we're not going to meet again before this retreat meeting?
My suggestion is that we draft an agenda and we send and we negotiate it via email. And
Okay.
people respond as soon as possible so we can be quick with that. Okay, was that all right with everybody?
One thing I don't think we covered, Claire, is whether or not we're comfortable having them in person, in someone's
Okay.
home, outdoors, or whether they need to be via Zoom.
Okay, does anybody object to having an in-person meeting? And once again, we need to put down your reaction buttons.
I don't want to speak for Stefan, but I believe he had a very strong reason to not have it in person. And yeah.
Outdoors in person outdoors would be okay. I don't know if we can depend on the weather. You know, maybe there's someplace with a shelter. But
So I'm gonna open up. I have a space that has multiple couches and chairs. It is a screened-in covered porch. So if it's raining, you might get a little breeze on you, but you won't get wet. And I'm more than happy to host and offer that porch up, as I literally built that porch for this purpose, to be able to host gatherings during a COVID crisis.
Yay. Anybody have an objection to that offer?
Let's do it.
Okay,
Alright.
thank you, Susan. We're on.
No problem. You got it. I will send an email my address so I don't put it into the public minutes.
Okay,
If Susan is comfortable, my experience is that a two-person committee ends up getting stuck. And I'd volunteer to be the third as long as you don't feel we're going to overwhelm you, Susan.
Charlesy.
No, I'm trying to get rid of these things.
Okay, okay, you were doing
Oh.
a party hat. Okay.
I do want to volunteer to be on that planning committee.
Okay, very good, everyone. Thank you so much. And Susan, we will make our first meeting ASAP.
Got it.
With Charles C.
Oh, you want to
Yeah.
be in it too?
That's what I was.
Oh, okay, I was unclear. Okay, very good.
Okay, so John, Claire, Charles, and me.
Good.
You got it. I'll set up a time.
Thank you.
So shall we go on to the next agenda item? Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Okay, number 6, investigate hybrid meetings. And if we jump down to what I have in the agenda, Discuss whether to investigate move to a hybrid meeting model, and if agreed, establish another ad hoc committee, determine when and how to transition with it, with the addition of that committee also being responsible for determining how to enable closed captioning. And the suggestion motion here is I move we form an ad hoc committee consisting of the following members to be filled to propose when and how RRCO can transition to a hybrid meeting, to report at the April board meeting, and thereafter submit to the general membership for discussion and decision. So in other words, let's form a committee, let them come with a proposal to our next board meeting, discuss it then, hopefully reach agreement, and then take it to the membership for their consideration and approval. So I'll make that motion. And if there's a second, we can go from there, but we can also modify that motion.
John, the motion needs to come from the floor. It can't come from the chair.
Well, that's true. We've ignored that rule. So would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll move.
Stefan, you're moving?
I'll
And
second.
then Jackie, will you second?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, discussion.
Have fun, go for it.
Has there been conversation about the technology that might be available to us through as an approved committee of the city or charter of the city?
Yes, there has. Thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, we have some background information for that. The downside is that it's all at the annex, which can only hold 40 people in person.
Well, we have traditionally met at the annex. The annex is designed to do this. They set it up for their classes to be able to be remote. They have a large screen TV, they have microphones, etc. In addition, the HRNI, the neighborhood program for the city, has an item called an owl that's designed as a device for communicating audially as well. So we have the technology. We would also, if we did meet in person as a hybrid as well as online, we'd have to have a location. We do have a standing agreement with the Parks and Recreation Department that the second Monday of the month is ours for a meeting. So if we didn't meet there, we'd have to find another venue.
The second and third Mondays.
Well, not for the general meeting, but yes, you're right. We'd be hybriding perhaps for the board meeting as well. So yeah, we have both of those locked in. And we'd have to find some other place, probably a church, if we were going to meet somewhere else. Which has some issues for some people.
I see Stefan and Charles's hands.
Yeah, I mean, if we're seriously talking about or interested in engaging the Latinx community, I think we should explore whether we could meet at Camino del Rio. You know, the school district has certainly made some noise about wanting to be involved in the community, and letting the community organization meet there would seem to be appropriate, but that could be explored.
Can I respond to Stefan? In the past, the schools have said, sure, as long as you pay to have a janitor present. So there would be a cost if we met at the schools, unless
Well,
they've changed their policy.
There's a new school board, so
Yeah.
that
We can
might
ask.
not still be true.
May I suggest that this committee investigate other venues?
Yes. Good idea.
Charlesy?
Yes, I wanted to clarify something. This motion it sounds to me like it's assuming that this is a good way to go to try to make hybrid work. And
It's to propose how it would work if it did, not that it does.
I just want to put in a plug that I think it's extremely important that we try to make this happen, that we make it happen. And I wanted to just comment that in the chat from our last meeting, Carlene Riley wrote something I thought was very important for us to keep in mind, that hybrid meetings are good for the elderly, families with children who need to be put to bed, people who don't drive at night and people with varying degrees of impairments. I really want us to be as inclusive as possible, especially as we talk about being inclusive, and that we accommodate the 251 now members in good standing that we have, and make our meetings as accessible as possible. I think hybrid goes a long way to do that. So thank you.
Did we just lose ourselves? Oh, no, okay.
The other thing is COVID could come roaring back and we'll decide not to hybrid at all and stay in Zoom. But that's the committee's role, to make recommendations about possible options.
So do we have a vote on the committee yet? Or are we still?
No, we're still discussing.
Okay.
Other thoughts? Okay, and we'll do it and then appoint members, I guess. So the motion is to form an ad hoc committee to propose when and how we can transition to a hybrid meeting. I guess I should say when and how and if I may edit that. Can transition to a hybrid meeting to report to the April board meeting and therefore thereafter submit to the general membership for discussion and decision. So this is just to form a committee to suggest what we might want to do. Further
Are we
discussion?
voting?
There's no further discussion, so let's vote. Green, red, and yellow hands for abstainers, then I'm voting yes.
You have 6 yeses, 7 yeses. So there's 2 people who, okay,
John, again, if it's not a tie, you can't vote.
7, 8.
Pardon?
Okay, we're good.
I don't think we have that ruled in. We haven't said the chair that is not a voting member.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Okay,
Okay, that's a unanimous vote.
so now comes the fun part. Who wants to be on this committee?
I will be on the committee.
Okay,
Yay,
and I
Carly.
volunteer.
I'll volunteer to help with testing out the different technology and being on that too.
Great.
So that's Carly, John, and Jackie, is that correct?
Yep,
Okay.
good. Thank you. Item number 7. This is mine too. This requires a little bit of background. And I tried to put it in the agenda, but for those who didn't see the agenda or otherwise don't know, the county and the city have come together to establish a navigation center to be developed on the site of the old VA clinic on Silver Avenue. I think it's 151, excuse me, River Avenue. And the purpose of that is to create a low barrier shelter, which by definition it is going to serve people who may be either drug or alcoholic dependent. And the purpose of the center is to help transition people who are chronically homeless into a living facility. And the purpose is bring them together, help them, work through their issues, whether it's finding the documentation they need, potentially getting dried out, just transitioning them to no longer be homeless. It's something that's been very successful in other communities. We don't have such an item in Lane County. It's moving forward, and it's by the contract going to be opening on by June 31st of this year. And when the other communities where this has been done, it has become successful because they create something called a good neighbor agreement. And that good neighbor agreement is created by all the players, the county and the city in this case, the social service providers who will be working with the individuals, the neighborhood association that's affected, and the people who were going to be in the program themselves also agree to the good neighbor agreement. And it defines how we're going to behave with each other And also when issues arise, and they're almost certainly guaranteed, that we have a predefined process to resolve them. So they are moving forward with this process. The first step, other than preparing the facility, which they're doing now, is to determine who the social service providers will be. They sent out an RFP in November, I believe it was, soliciting organizations interested in being those social service providers. They got no responses. So they are going at it again, and they are inviting us to participate in the RFP approval process, assuming that there are submissions at the end of this month. So we had previously formed a good neighbor agreement. We had tentative discussions with the county, primarily, they're the primary people involved, about how we would go about doing this. We have since heard from the Eugene Chamber of Commerce that they're willing to help us in doing outreach to the businesses that surround that area, which is most of their neighbors. And we received an email, which I shared with you, asking us to send one or more people to that RFP evaluation process. Our committee consisted of, in the past, we created it, it was myself, Dwight Owens, Lisa Levson, and Harry Sanger. So I suggest that it's time for us to reevaluate that committee, determine who the participants will be, and they will also be involved in negotiating that good neighbor agreement and doing outreach to the community once we get there. So the motion is we revise the membership of RRCO's ad hoc River Avenue Navigation Center Good Neighbor Agreement Committee to consist of the following. And now's time to ask questions before we make that motion. And as is pointed out, I can't make it anyway.
So my question is, it sounds like you conflated a couple different ideas. One is creating the good neighbor agreement committee, and the other one is participating in the selection review committee. So are you wanting the good neighbor committee to do both of those things?
I am suggesting we revise the membership of that committee, and these are its charges already.
So just to be clear, that committee would also be the advisory for the county selection committee.
One or more of those people should participate in it, yes.
Okay.
Misty, you have your hand up?
Oh, I just would like to be considered to be on that committee. Thank you.
Okay, let's answer questions about what we're really talking about here first, but thank you for that. Other questions? I see furrowed brows. There must be questions behind them.
I don't see any hands.
Who else is interested? I'm in favor, but in order to make the motion, we need to know the names of who to propose. So I'd
Okay.
like to see John do it and Misty do it, and anybody else?
I'd like to recommend Dwight. He's the chair of our homelessness outreach committee and has worked with us all along, and he's raising his hand, I assume, in interest in joining us.
Definitely.
Continuing.
Yes, that's a yes.
Thanks, Dwight.
This is Susan. One challenge I have is I don't know the number of committees that we're talking about tonight. Tonight, we've just added 3 committees, which is totally fine. Great to add committees. I just don't understand how many total are we talking about. And again, this is something as a newbie, I don't know. I'm not comfortable signing up for, 5 committees if I don't understand the time commitments, et cetera, and what the other things are. So that's
John,
the challenge in my furrowed brow.
Did
Okay.
you send out that overview list of the committees and everything, John?
Yes, I did. That was the first document I sent out yesterday, and I understand that's a lot to absorb.
Yeah,
This
I
committee
didn't answer that.
exists. We're just talking about revising the membership. It's not a new committee. That may be a distinction and not a difference, but it is
But-
true that it exists.
John, maybe if you explained just very shortly, perhaps how long do you think this committee will be working on this project? do you expect? You know, kind of how many times are we going to meet with the city? You know, just generally how
Well, I
is it
think,
going and where do you see it going?
yeah, I think there's two tasks. The one is to get the center up and running, and that is the RFP approval for the providers, and also developing the, well, actually, we'll do outreach first to hear what the concerns of the neighbors are. We'll work with the city, county, et cetera, to develop a good neighbor agreement. But once that agreement is in place, there are people in the center. The committee will also serve as a role of dealing with problems as they arise, hopefully not very often. So there is no clear end to the committee, but the bulk of the work will be done between now and the end of June. Does that help, Missy?
Thank you. Yes, it does. For me.
Okay. Anyone else? Stefan?
I move we revise the membership of RRCO's Ad Hoc River Avenue Navigation Center Good Neighbor Agreement Committee to consist of John Belcher, Misty, and Dwight.
I second.
Okay. Further discussion? Thank you, Stefan and Claire. Okay, let's vote. All those in favor, please put up your green dots. Opposed, your red dots. And I'm voting in favor.
We've got 7 green dots.
And Carly and my hands up. So is
Okay,
that unanimous?
and Dan, did you? Yeah, yes, that's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. On to item number 8. This one's yours, Claire, and I'll actually let you do it.
And I don't, okay, what, oh,
World Games Involvement Invitation.
okay, so the city is organizing. There's an information center and an event that the city is organizing to involve the neighborhoods and neighbor associations in the work of welcoming tourists and et cetera to this big World Games event that's happening in Eugene. So my first thought when I looked at that is, does this have anything to do with our neighborhood at all? And do we want to do, so the question on the floor though is, do we want to participate or respond to this call from the city to participate in their planning for that event? I know they're going to have a big festival down at the new waterfront facility, various downtown oriented activities. So this is just an open discussion question. John?
A little bit more information. It's early July. I apologize. It's actually the World Track and Field Championships. It's usually happens in London, Stockholm, places like that. We're having it here in Eugene. We're a much smaller venue. It's going to bring 10,000 people to Eugene who will need a place to stay, some of whom may be staying in bed and breakfast or whatever in our neighborhood, but it's going to happen at Hayward Field, which is pretty far away. So this is a meeting that they're asking neighborhoods to attend to find out what they're proposing and to see if we want to be involved. Just a little more information.
Okay.
And the meeting's on the 30th and it's being done by Zoom. It's at 6 to 7:30 p.m.
Okay, I see hands from Misty, Stefan, and Susan.
Yeah, I see this impacting our neighborhood in several ways, but definitely along the bike path, along the river for sure, and traffic, definitely. So those are just two issues that I see coming up, or you know, how it'll affect our neighborhood.
Okay, Stefan?
I don't see much impact on our neighborhood, but if someone wants to participate, I would be in favor of designating them as our neighborhood representative. I'm not interested.
Okay. Who was the other person with your hand up? Anybody else with your hand up?
I'm double checking to make sure. I don't think the marathon comes through us, but I don't know if that really matters.
Okay, so my feeling, does anybody want to volunteer to go to this meeting and get more information and bring it back to the board?
I will.
Okay,
This is
Susan will
Misty.
volunteer.
That wasn't Susan.
That
Oh,
was
I'm
Misty.
sorry.
Misty,
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see everybody's pictures in my screen here. Okay,
the marathon does not include our bike path, but
Oh,
that's neither here nor there.
okay. So Misty will go to this city meeting and will report back to us next meeting.
Okay,
Is that good with everybody? Okay.
John,
So-
will you forward me that information?
Okay, you have it in the agenda, but I'll send it again.
Oh, never mind then. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we don't need a motion. Stefan, is that okay with you? Okay,
Also, there might be other people in our neighborhood, like I saw just a note from Jolene and, if other people want to go, they should talk to Misty and I don't think we have a problem with other people going to that meeting for more information.
well, I
John?
will mention that when we got the message, we were asked to send it just to the board for whatever that's
Oh.
worth.
Okay,
That doesn't mean we have to follow what they've asked.
yeah.
I would suggest, Misty, why don't you get with those folks? Who were they again?
So if you're interested also to go to that meeting or get more information, why don't you say something in the chat?
Okay, good. Okay, Claire, you have the agenda setting task, which is really our last thing for the evening.
Okay, there are two upcoming items for the general meeting that I think that we can do both in the April meeting. The Social Justice Committee has been talking with Micah Contreras about new policies from 4J to address racial harassment in the school. And we have had issues around that specifically at North High School. So she's willing to come to our meeting and talk about both the situation at North High School and the policies to address it. So we would like to see that happening. And the other one is that there's a map of the flood zones that we've been given that we'd like to, John, what?
I'm sorry, that isn't the second item, and I would add that the Social Justice Committee requested the first item. The second
I
item
did say
is-
that.
Okay, I
Okay.
missed it. The second item is that the city and LTD have just finished approving
Yeah,
EMX on River Road as to move forward in the planning process. There's one other body, I think it's the MPC, Carlene can tell me whether that's true, who also needs to agree, but they will have done so theoretically by our next general meeting. This turned out to be a high interest, high controversy issue for the council. There's a group of folks who are organizing in opposition to the plan and gathered a large number of signatures of people along the route, in my editorial opinion, with misinformation. But nonetheless, LTD and I had a discussion. They would like to come to our next April meeting and dispel some of that misinformation and actually provide a little more background on what is likely to be the impact to property owners along the route, and also what impact it will have on traffic flow through the neighborhood, at least tentatively, as far as they know. They'd also like to share with us what the process will be moving forward and how people can be involved. And I think it's a high interest, high controversy, and timely to have that item on the agenda as well. And I think it'll be of interest to our neighbors.
so the proposal we're currently thinking of is we have both of those items in the April meeting,
General meeting.
general meeting, yeah.
I support both.
So Is there any other ideas that people want to put forward for general meeting topics?
Yeah, this is Susan. One thing I know the Zip-O-Matic conversation was held, I believe at the last general session, and there was some progress. I just want to make sure that there's some kind of update on that because that is still very topical for a lot of folks.
I think it's May 17th. The city council is going to have a work session on that item. And I've been
Okay.
told by our counselor that that Zippo will be part of that discussion. But there
Great.
won't be anything available for April as far as I know. But
Okay,
it's
thank
certainly
you,
a
Jen.
topic for the future.
And
Thank you.
Susan, if you're tracking that, I generally ask, put out a call for items for the newsletter. So if you have update information, just send me a note of what you want to have in the newsletter.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Charles,
Susan, I will try calling that individual as well and see if I can get her to respond.
Okay.
Okay, I see
And thanks for your help.
Charlesy and Misty's hands are up.
I guess I'll go. We're calling for agenda items for the next meeting. Okay,
No,
yeah.
not for the next meeting, for after that.
For the next general meeting.
Okay, yes, the next general meeting. Do you think it would be of interest to RRCO's membership to have a discussion about the World Games and how it'll impact them? I can bring the information that I learned about at the meeting and possible ways, even perhaps businesses be involved. We could maybe have some kind of event at one of our parks where businesses are involved and could possibly generate some funding from the 10,000 people that are coming. We can pull them over here on this side of the river. Just an idea. Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make a correction that this is, first of all, let's affirm whether or not we want those two items for the April meeting and the further suggestions for following meetings. John, your hand is up.
Yeah, Misty, that's a good point. You won't have that meeting until the 30th. So we don't know what's going to come out of it. I think it's a good point to determine whether or not it does need to be discussed in the neighborhood or informational. And then whether or not April is the time we need to do it or whether we could do it a later month. I think
It's
we
fine.
could,
if That's
may I
not,
finish, please?
sorry.
I think let's find out what you find out in March, and we could certainly find 10 minutes if it's appropriate to put it on the April agenda. That's my suggestion. If not, let's cover it later. Thank you for letting me finish, Misty.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'd like to move to revisit adding Zippo to the next general meeting, because my understanding is that if the city is going to discuss it on the 17th, we should be informing our members of that. And also folks who want to mobilize for the meeting on the 17th should have the opportunity to plan to do so.
John?
It would be a good idea to get that information out to folks and encourage them to meet with, contact their city councilors or all city councilors about it. It's a work session, so there would have to be an opportunity for them to speak at another meeting. Work sessions don't usually have public comment. But yeah, it's certainly worth getting the information out.
And I think it'd be great to provide the email contact so people can write to their city councilors in advance of the work meeting on the 17th.
Claire constantly reminds me that we shove lots of stuff into our general meeting and it becomes overwhelming. So
Yeah.
something to keep in mind.
I know that both of the agenda items for April want at least half an hour. So I don't want to cram it up with a lot more stuff. We also have the newsletter. We have the announcements time at the beginning of the meeting. And Jolene, do you want to put your comment in the chat, please? Okay. Okay, so we need to wrap up this discussion. I don't see other suggestions for meeting topics. This is, we always talk about this, we always ask for it, so don't feel like this is your last chance. John?
In fairness to both Misty and Carly, if you still want to have time carved out for those items, I think we should vote on which ones to include as a straw poll and then figure out how to make them work. Is that acceptable, Carly and Misty?
Yes.
And then if I would suggest if something gets the majority of the votes, it's on the agenda. If it doesn't, it isn't. Is that okay? But that doesn't mean we can't have announcements, and it doesn't mean we can't get it into the e-news and the website for that matter.
Yeah, perhaps we could just make an announcement at next week's general meeting about the World Games and our invitation to get involved, and we'll report back. You know, just keep
Okay.
things transparent and up.
In case you haven't seen the chat, Jolene typed in athletes and visitors will be using the river path throughout this event. Thanks, Jolene.
Charles, I see your hand.
Yeah, it's just a quick comment that I'm really struck by how many people showed up at that meeting on Zippo. And I think it is one of the hottest topics that we have going in our neighborhood. I think that we have to make that announcement, and I don't see it taking more than 5 minutes on any agenda. I mean, maybe there's a difference of opinion that Carly has, but I'd really like us to revisit it and let the neighborhood know that we're on top of it and that we need their active support.
Yeah, I agree. It's not a long agenda item. It's more in terms of the announcements. Okay.
Certainly more than the 2 minutes we normally give to announcements. So let's talk about these as 2 large items and a small item. How's that? And a possible fourth of the games.
Okay.
So you want to straw poll those?
All right. Does that agenda, do you want to give a thumbs up for that agenda in the reactions? Or green check, whichever you prefer.
So I'm a little unsure what we're doing with the World Championship Games. It's a small announcement. Is that what we're proposing?
We're getting more information.
Yes, making a small announcement. And then that we're getting more information that will be provided at the April meeting.
Okay,
So
and
this
once
is the
again,
April meeting.
you can preview that announcement in the newsletter and to give some background information. Okay, so
So
I only
Misty,
see-
I'm a little bit of confusion here that we are talking about the April meeting. So more information at the May
Sorry,
meeting?
I got turned around. Sorry, yes, affirmative.
okay, so I only see 3 votes for approving the agenda. 4 votes, 5 votes. Okay, 6 votes. Okay, so we're good for that proposed agenda for March.
So would you like to generally talk
6.
about other topics for the future?
Would I like to? I already asked if people had other issues that they would like to see in a future meeting. And we didn't get anybody jumping up and down.
Oh,
I'm not sure we understood that was that asked.
So go ahead, Misty.
I'm not, we're just getting to know one another. Not sure if anybody has this kind of skill set, but I would like to work with somebody to, on our website. That's,
We do have a website committee that we probably need to revisit this when we talk about committees at the
Yeah.
retreat. So
okay,
good. I'm glad you want to do that.
thank you.
John.
Just to quickly go over what I put in that mega document. There are several traditional meetings that we have throughout the year. In the summer, some years, yes, some years, no. We've had a potluck picnic outdoors. We might want to consider that in the near future. August, we usually set aside for what we call the Meet the Electeds, and we invite our city councilor, our state legislators, our county commissioners, the eWeb elected official to come and talk to us and let us know what's going on. The reason we do that in August is because, and something we ought to consider at some point in time, our meeting dates are at the same time the city council meets. So the only time we can meet with our city councilor is in August when they're in recess. So that's why that's there. September, it's been several years now, but we used to have a weekend morning pancake breakfast. October, we usually set aside as a candidates forum for elections for county commissioners, city councilors, and legislators. Our city councilor is not up for election this year. Through a quirk of whatever, our county commissioner is up for election, but we don't get to vote for him or her. So I don't know that we'll have a forum for that, but we will have state legislator contested races. Finally, in December, we have had a holiday dessert potluck, which I don't know how we could do hybrid, but nonetheless, we come together, celebrate the year, and bring our preferred desserts to share. But who knows whether we'll do that this year. And then the only other thing that we sort of have to set aside for our meetings is in March when we elect the board, but that's a year away. Just wanted to share that.
Misty's hand is up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm hogging so much space here. Spring is here, so perhaps discuss plant exchanges, garden, coordinate, talk about sharing plants. We all have 1,000 seedlings.
We do, I wish we did.
Come up, so perhaps we can put it out there, organize a little mini, drop off what you have at this location, and I'd be happy to help organize that.
So thank you, Misty. I actually was asked for garden related stuff to feature in the newsletter for April. And also there's a propagation fair. I'm not sure the exact date of it. I think it's the end of this month at the rec center. Maybe, yeah, maybe we can talk about those kinds of things in the April meeting.
Okay.
Something for the hybrid meeting committee to consider.
And also check in with Jan if you have other ideas along those lines. Okay.
A few other things that we have been asked to do in the near future. There's some transportation projects that are proposed for the neighborhood. A bike ped bridge over Beltline is one. Unfortunately, it's not funded, but they're planning it. We will have a new flashing beacon at River Road near Hatton, although that's just a done deal. We don't have to discuss it, but there's a major redesign for safe routes to schools along Howard Avenue to create a multi-use path in what is now the driven area. Our neighborhood plan is going to require some meetings in the future. So those are things that are on the coming ahead. And then the Emergency Preparedness Committee hopefully will have an item sometime in the near future talking about the dam break inundation map that we finally gotten a hold of and what that means for us and how we can prepare for it. Just to be aware of it in the future.
Okay, this has been a long meeting and I want to move that we adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, there's a lot that we have to cover in a very short period of time, and thanks for everybody for their patience and drinking from the fire hose. I think we got an awful lot done tonight, so thanks.
I recommend people try to read that briefing memo that John and I put together for some more background information.
And send us questions about what you don't understand or you think we've missed.
Yeah. Okay, anybody opposed to quitting? Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
See you on the 3rd.
I
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
save the chat. I don't know if the chat was that, yeah. Save the chat. Did you save the chat, Josie?
You're muted, Chelsea.
The chat is automatically saved anyway when we save the recording.
Yeah, but it won't be saved with my direct.
Right.
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh, okay, yes, thank you. I have done that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, public, for listening in.
Chelsea, I forgot to sign in. Can you sign me in? Or
Of
that's not
course.
the rule. I didn't make the meeting. Sorry.
Yeah, heck, okay.
I think I'll be in another one soon.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
think you're at risk of running out of credit.
I am now ending meeting for all.
Thank you.